Hello everyone, this is Steak and Cake, back again with a brand new video. Today's video is going to be a lot different. So, recently I've been reading a lot of the stories from the subreddit r/entitledparents, and I saw a bunch of videos that were just reading the stories of r/entitledparents, so I was like, hey, I should do that, and that's what I'm doing. This first story is called, "You Will Date My Daughter or I'll Get You Fired." So for some context, I'm a 17-year-old male and I work at a Segway tour company. It's actually really fun. I get to ride Segways around the city and talk to people and get paid to do it. Plus the tipping isn't bad. So anyway, there was a tour booked a couple days ago and I came in about 20 minutes early to answer emails and get everything ready. The group shows up, mother and daughter, and that's when things get interesting. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by telling you what EP and ME stand for, but D equals daughter, just for some useful info. EP and D come in and I check them in. Alright, I have some waivers for you to sign. D, how old are you? 16. Okay, then you don't need to sign a waiver. I ask this because if kids are younger than 18, their parents sign the waivers for them, but EP only heard me say the first part, not when I said D didn't need to sign a waiver. So she thought I was just asking her daughter how old she was. That was probably where it started. We go on tour, and while I'm giving my spiel, EP keeps interrupting me to tell me stuff about D and find if we are compatible. And so this non-profit organization opened in, "Are you in college?" No, I'm a junior in high school. I'm usually pretty free with info about myself on tours because it helps keep people relaxed and initiates conversations during lulls during the tour. Plus it helps with tipping, winky face. Oh, D is also a junior. She's an artist. Stuff like this keeps happening throughout the tour, and every time D gets redder and redder. My mom does this too, where she just tells random mall attendants about me. So I know what D is going through and I feel her pain. At the end of the tour, I tell the two of them that they have 15 minutes to go around town and then they can meet me back at the Segway place. I get back and start getting things set up for their return. They roll in, pardon the pun, and I take their Segways to start charging them. "So what do you think of my daughter?" "Pardon me, what?" "I saw you checking her out during the tour. Are you going to ask her out?" "Mom, stop." Ma'am, I just recently got out of a relationship and I'm really not looking for anything right now." "What?" "Huh? Is my daughter not good enough for you?" "No, that's not it. I just said I got out of a relation." "You are going to date my daughter and that's final." "You can't tell me what to do. I'm not your kid, and if I don't want to date your daughter, I don't have to. Besides, you haven't even asked her if she wants to date me." "Yeah, I don't want to date him." "See? I'm going to call your boss and tell him about your terrible customer service. You're never going to work in city name again." Me pulling out my phone. "Alright, you want to call him and explain the situation? How you're trying to force me to date your daughter and get me fired for saying no?" Then I guess the absurdity to the situation finally sunk in, and her face transitioned from pure rage to slight confusion. "Wait, maybe I don't want to..." "No, let's call him." Start to go through my contacts and press my boss's name. "Let's have this conversation." "I don't think this is a good idea." Phone starts ringing. "D, let's go." EP runs out the door. D turns to me and says, "I'm sorry," and then follows her mom. I hang up the phone before my boss answers and starts cleaning the Segways. I have some more stories from my work. Y'all tell me if you want to hear some more. Honestly, usually the YouTubers that talk about these stories have some kind of little commentary at the end of the story. Personally, I don't have any sort of commentary about this story at all. I mean, it's just kind of like stupid. Like you're trying to tell someone to date their child. That's extremely ridiculous, especially where I come from. Alright, so this next story is called "Entitled Mom Ends Up in Court." Now, I really feel for this guy because of what happened in the story. Let me preface this by saying this happened a very long time ago, and while I could come to a reasonable approximation of the dialogue that surrounded this, I won't bother. I don't recall everything that was said, just some of the circumstances. Okay, first off, I am a model railroader. Specifically, I model an O scale. For reference, that means the average locomotive is about 3 to 4 inches tall and up to a foot long, depending on the type, that is. One summer, I was taking part in a model railroad fair at our local mall where I was displaying some of my models. Being that I'm from the US, the fact that I model in British Isles, Great Western Railway for you Brit readers, meant that my display really stood out. Now, as there's always kids at these types of shows, I had taken to putting a plexiglass side around my layout to prevent children from reaching in and touching things, or damaging various parts of the structures and models that went with the railroad. While I was watching one locomotive I had just received leave the staging area, it's a small 3-track system that lets me funnel trains into the layout and then out as needed. I remembered this one lady making comments about the cute little trains, getting that train running at a nice but slow pace. I approached her and smiled, asking if there's any questions she had. The lady never missed a beat, pointing to the train I had just started, and told me that her son liked trains, and that I should sell her one for him. Now, truth be known, this wasn't an uncommon thing to happen. People, usually other modelers, may ask if some units are up for sale. Sometimes they are, but typically not. I explained to her that the locomotive wasn't for sale, and even if it was, she wouldn't have liked the price anyway, noting that the engine she was pointing to had cost me close to $1,000. The lady was having none of it, and offered me $10 for it, since it was obviously a toy. I ignored her and went back to getting the next train set up on the staging track, waiting for that one to return. As I do this, I hear an odd sound and look up just in time to see the lady picking the locomotive up off the track and moving to hand it to her kid. I called out for her to stop, which may have been a mistake, as she promptly dropped it on the ground. The engine, though somewhat robust and heavy, was made of a rather soft brass. When it hit the ground, there was a sickening crunch. I knew from the sound that the engine was done for, broken beyond repair. The lady just looked down at it, shrugged, and kicked it back under the table before starting to walk off. Thankfully, security quickly caught up with her and detained her, while police were called. All the while, she kept saying, "It's just a toy! Men don't play with toys!" while ignoring the fact that she was surrounded by dozens of train layouts, with just as many grown men showing off their work. Police arrested her on destruction of private property charges, while the mall itself barred her from ever setting foot on the property again. Later, with her information on hand from the police report, I filed a case against her for the replacement of the locomotive. You won't believe it, but she had the gall to try and convince the judge that it was just a toy, and the receipts I had for the purchase of the locomotive weren't real, saying that she had seen the exact same locomotive at Walmart herself. Well, the case ended up in my favor, with her having to pay me replacement costs, as well as some punitive damages. The judge ended the case with the simple warning that just because you want something doesn't give you the right to simply take it away. From the criminal side of things, I think the lady ended up with 40 or so hours of community service and a substantial fine as well. Here's hoping she learned her lesson. I guess you guys can see why I decided to read this story out of all of the ones on r/entitledparents. This one really spoke to me because I am a model railroader, and it's just so disappointing, and it makes me so angry seeing that people can do this to other modelers. Like, she offered $10 for the $1,000 train. That's crazy. And she tried to convince the judge that she saw the same thing at Walmart. That is just evil to me. So, I'm going to leave this story and say one final thing. Don't mess with model railroaders. Alright, so this last one is called Give My Child Your Computer. Okay, so when I was like 11, I was out to the Cheesecake Factory for a dinner with my uncle and aunt and their 2 kids. We ordered and we were sitting and talking. I was bored, so I got out my laptop that turned into a tablet. I started doodling in Microsoft Paint. On the table across from us, there was a mom with a kid that was like 4. He was drawing in a notebook, and he turned over to look at me. He then whispered something to his mom. I knew something was up, so I put my earbuds in. My aunt and uncle go to the bathroom and leave me with the kids. It was fine by me because they were often quiet. Like a minute later, the mom, who we'll call EM, and the kid, EB, she came over to me and said, "Excuse me." "Yes?" "My son thinks your computer is really cool and he wants to have it." I'm sorry, I'm not going to give my laptop to your child. Please go away." "Mommy, I want it." Me puts earbuds back in my ears. "Don't ignore me," pulls earbuds out of my ears. "Hey, what the frick are you doing? Get away." I had a phone in my pocket. "Give my child your computer. He deserves it more than you. I paid for this computer with my own money. I will call the police." By that time, my aunt and uncle came back from the bathroom and see what's going on. Eventually, the security is called and they are escorted out. But the EM doesn't leave without flipping me off and yelling, "He stole my computer! Arrest him for murder!" After that, she left, and it was a pretty awkward drive home. About 2 weeks ago, I saw her kid at Walmart, and she gave me the blankest stare that anyone can imagine. Now, I don't really have a commentary for this one either, but I just have one question. Why would you want to arrest someone for, first of all, not stealing not your computer, and arresting him for murder? Excuse me? Well, to be honest, it is entitled parents, and they do say the dumbest things ever, so it's kind of expected. Anyways, thank you all for watching my first entitled parents video. I kind of want to do more of these in the future, because they're just, really interesting. It's a better way for me to, do voice acting, which I don't really do much of that in my videos. So anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please give a like, and if you're new, subscribe. Anyways, that's all from me. Goodbye.